Hello. So today I'm going to talk about the nature of the self. Now, in non-duality, the self is all there is. There's no other. There's no separation. There's no second. There's only the self, and there's only ever been the self. And so, as people are talking about trying to practice being the self, or finding the self, or staying with the self, or abiding in the self, they're actually setting up an artificial, illusionary separation between them and the self. You can't practice to become what you already are. You can't try to stay with what you already are. There's nothing to do to be with the self because you are the self. You've always been that. And a lot of people think that in finding the self or non-duality, that it's something other than this, something other than what we experience. But it isn't. Because otherwise that would have to be some kind of other. That would, if the self was not this, all manifestation, all form, if the self was something else, well then there would be a second. There would be another. And there isn't one in non-duality. Now, there is just a basic ignorance. It's a misunderstanding. It's only a belief and a thought that we aren't the self. So finding the self is kind of, in a way, getting in your own way. Because there's nothing to find. You are already here. You are the ever-present self. You are ever here and now. Where else would you be? Where else would you go? So, there's nothing to attain, and that's why a lot of times they say there's nothing to attain, because you can't attain what you already are. If it's already with you, what would you get? So there's no gain, there's no loss. In a way, you can think about the law of conservation of energy. Energy is not created or destroyed. It will transform into different forms, and it will move about. But that is it. It is never created or destroyed. The self, non-duality, likewise, never created, never destroyed. It's just a transformation of forms. And we are not the forms. We are, well, in a way we are the forms, but we are all the forms. It's a funny thing because we often get stuck on the form. And so sometimes the teaching is we are not the form. But inevitably it will come back to we are the form. It's kind of like ice and water. They're both the same thing. It's just the forms vary. And if the ice melts into the liquid, nothing was gained or lost. It's still the same. In that way, nothing is ever gained or lost. It's a transformation of form, a movement of energy. But it's always the same energy. The form is energy. Einstein and his equals mc squared. If you take off the c square, because it's a constant squared to help calculate the amount of energy, you're just left with E equals m. Energy equals matter. Energy is matter. Matter is energy. They aren't separate. They aren't other. They're the same thing. And that's the way the self is. Everything is the self. There is no other. There might be a form that comes and goes, but the form is the self, and what it turned into is the self. Nothing gained or lost. The self is all there ever was. The trick is realizing what you've always been.